Hi everybody, John here. Just the other day, our friend Liz made a video where she spoke a little bit about herself, and she showed also 10 live records, or 10 favourite live records. I don't know if this was an ongoing thread that's been happening, or whether it's like starting a thread, or I don't know, but I thought I'd follow up and show 10 of my favourite live records. So this is a call out to Liz, and I thought it was a good idea. We don't see many live albums on the VC. There's this guy Curtis, I can't remember, it's Curtis Lind or something, who shows only live albums as far as I know, but outside of him there aren't that many that talk too much about live records. Okay, Liz, you started off by showing a few honourable mentions, which I thought I'd do. I've got quite a lot of live records, and some are better than others. I mean, some that I have I don't necessarily think are particularly great, like for instance Live Evil by Black Sabbath. I've always felt that it sounds quite poor. It's sort of dingy and dirgy and not necessarily well recorded. That's just at least that's my pressing. I don't know if it's true of the rest of it. And then there's U2's Rattle and Hum. It's sort of partially a live album, isn't it? I'm not a big fan of U2, but I do have it, and whenever I hear it, it reminds me of my student days, because it came out then and it was big then, and of course it got played a lot in the art studio and things where I studied, so I have memories of it, but I don't necessarily count it as one of my favourites. There's a few here that I'm going to show. So this is one that I picked up relatively recently. This is Ella Fitzgerald, live in Hamburg, 1965. I did a needle drop of this well, a few months ago now. It's a really good record. I mean, Ella Fitzgerald's got an amazing voice. Just in the past half year or so I've been getting into jazz in a big way, so this was a fantastic find. I picked it up for next to nothing. Great record. A bit too new to me to be one of my favourites though, because I haven't really got much history with it. Here's another one, Johnny Cash, Folsom Prison. Now this is a real classic record. I've owned this just a few years. I picked it up, it's still got a shrink on. I picked this up at a garage sale when I lived in California just a few years ago, and yeah, I just haven't really got around to listening to it yet. I grabbed it because it's in pretty good shape, and I thought, wow, it's a real classic, and people sort of talk about it, you know, like it's the best thing since sliced bread. So I picked it up. It's nice to have in the collection. One day, when I haven't got a list of other things that I want to listen to, I'll get to that one too. UFO. This is, for me, one of their better records. It's a double live album, and it's quite good because it's sort of made at their peak, and it's got their sort of best tracks on, I think, and the way they sort of perform them live, it's sort of done pretty consistently. So you get a string of really sort of cool hits. Michael Schenker plays guitar on this, and listening to this, you realise just why he's famous for being Michael Schenker, because he's a great player, great band. Yeah, the only reason why it's not on my top 10 is because, hey, there's 10 others that got there first. This is another one of my favourites. Liz, this is one you said, you told me afterwards you didn't have this on vinyl, so you didn't show it, but you would have done. Instead you showed 3 Sides Live. I don't have 3 Sides Live, but I have this. This is a great record. Some amazing tracks on here. What more can you say? I mean, it's Genesis. Unfortunately, it's Genesis after Peter Gabriel left, but it's still a very solid record. And if you like progressive rock, this is your go-to live album, in my view. Okay, so those are the honourable mentions. I'm going to show you 10 of my favourites. So I'll put them in order, I suppose. Well, in loose order. And at number 10, I'm going to show Joan Baez. Now, I'm cheating a little bit here because I've got two of these. Part 1 and part 2. I mean, ultimately they're two separate records, but you know, I've had these a while, and I listen to them and think of them as one record, even though they're not. This is brilliant. It was many years ago now. I picked the first one up at a thrift store in Stockholm. Didn't really know what to expect. I'd heard the name Joan Baez because my older sister was a big fan of Bob Dylan, and her name had sort of cropped up. I never really knew who she was or what she sounded like, but I recognised her name, and so I grabbed it. Got it home, and the first time you ever hear Joan Baez's voice, I just think it's jaw-dropping. You know, you just it's so angelic somehow. And these recordings are beautifully done. You know, they really come through, both of them. So that's in at those are in at number 10. Next I'm going to show Led Zeppelin. The song remains the same. In my 20s, I really sort of got into Led Zeppelin in a big way, and so much so that I just fell in love with them, to the point, unfortunately, at the stage of my life where I understood if I play their music over and over again, I'll kill it for myself, you know. And so I stopped short of killing them, and I preserved them for myself, enjoying Led Zeppelin since that point. I'll play Led Zeppelin on my birthday, for instance, or if there's a special occasion, or if I'm particularly happy about something, I'll play Led Zeppelin. But otherwise, I don't want it to become sort of part of my everyday music because, well, you know, I'll destroy it for myself. I did that with T-Rex, and I did that with Jimi Hendrix to a certain degree. By the time I'd kind of gotten onto Led Zeppelin, I'd sort of recognised that pattern. Anyway, so this is their live album. Some people like it more than others, I think. I feel there's a lot of empty space on here. You've also got what's quite typical in these sort of rock records is this sort of lengthy drum solos. I don't know how long. I think Moby Dick, I don't know how long it goes on for, but there's a point where you're just listening and going. Technically, I'm sure it's brilliant. John Bonham's a brilliant drummer, isn't he? But whether I want to listen to him just beat the drum for any more than a few minutes at a time is, you know, that's another thing. I don't think I want to do that. But apart from that, there's some good tracks on here. And yeah, again, I think it catches them at their peak, I think. Another good record. So that was number 9, this would be number 8. This is Thin Lizzy, Live and Dangerous. Again, I think another brilliant double live album by a band that, you know, were at their peak when it was recorded. Yeah, I mean, there's moments on this album where it is, again, a bit like that UFO record I showed before. You've got a stack of hits coming, and they're all played beautifully, and they kind of melt into one. And it's you know, it's a real kick just to listening to those stretches of tracks. There's a lot of really good photographs, a lot of iconic photographs, I think. I mean, Phil Lynott is iconic, isn't he? But some of these sort of guitar poses, I think, are amazing. Who else have we got? Yeah, this guy. Can't remember his name off the top of my head now. It's gone blank. He's still playing, well, still pretending to be Thin Lizzy to a large extent. It's a bit controversial, isn't it? But there you go. Okay. This is going to have to be number 7. So this is made in Japan. Deep Purple. I've had this record years. It's one of my very sort of earliest records, I think. And anyone knows that this album is a true sort of classic live album. Deep Purple at their peak of their game, I think, as well as their sort of classic Mark II or Mark III. So this is number 6 on the list today. This is David Bowie, Ziggy Stardust, the motion picture. So this came out in '83, I see on the back of here. I know it was recorded way before that, in the early '70s, and I don't know why it wasn't released, but it was released eventually in the '80s. So I got this when I was 13, 14, 15 years old, I suppose, and yeah, it was one of my earliest live albums, I think, and I didn't quite know what to make of it. You know, I was probably a bit too young to appreciate this thing about it doesn't sound as good as the ones that recorded in the studio. That was my perception, you know. I'm older now, as we all are, and so eventually I kind of understood, oh, there's a different quality about this, you know, this was as it happened. And you've also got this bit here before the track Rock and Roll Suicide that David Bowie sort of famously announces that they'll never play again, and everybody thought, oh, David Bowie's going into retirement, but really apparently what he meant was they won't play again as the Spiders from Mars. So basically he was retiring Ziggy Stardust, not necessarily David Bowie. Again, another very early live album for me. This is Alchemy by Dire Straits. This was given to me by my brother, eldest brother. And he sort of famously said to me at the time something about, because I was into Duran Duran at the time, and he gave me this, and he said something about how they can play their instruments, meaning that, you know, people in pop bands like Duran Duran couldn't. This is pretty intense for the young man. I suppose I might have been 15, 16 when I got this. And of course they play these really long, complex tracks. I would have always labelled this as prog, but apparently it's not. I don't know why. But it's a good album. It is really good. I probably played it to death, so I don't listen to this really now. And when I put it on, it takes me right back to my bedroom, my teenage years. Bob Dylan, Hard Rain. So my sister, the one that actually gave me my very first record, she got into Bob Dylan in her mid-20s, I suppose, when I was still a teenager. And she wanted to go up to London to see Bob Dylan when he came over to perform. And actually she and we actually went twice, 2 different tours to see Bob Dylan play in London. And so I, you know, concentrated on listening to his music just to become familiar with it. And this was one that I really enjoyed. And I think it was one of those albums where Bob Dylan, his performance, he doesn't try and just sort of emulate the studio version. He kind of, you know, changes it up a little bit, you know, messes around a little bit with the melodies and the rhythms and things. So I've always liked that. I think I probably like this more than, you know, his studio albums. A lot of happy memories from that time. Okay, Hendrix-In the West. You know, Hendrix has got a lot of live albums out there, and there are many good ones. There are also many poor ones, I think, but this has to be one of the best. It's a really, really brilliant album. He performs Johnny Be Good, and it's just, you know, mind blown. Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band he does on here, Little Wing, Rudy Charl. So, yeah. And the distortions that he produces are just, you know. I always think if I could go back in a time machine, I'd like to go back and witness some of these concerts, because, well, I suppose you could really do it, could you? I just think, how did this sound to people at that time? We're used to sort of, you know, loud rock music these days. It gets played on the radio all the time. We're used to kind of pretty intense guitar players and things. But Jimi was really, like, he broke the mould. So it must have, so number 2 is going to have to be this one, Humble Pie. Performance Rocking the Filmore. This is a truly great record, in that it's raw, you know. It's well, yeah, it's just very raw, and Humble Pie is sort of really sort of giving it all. Steve Marriott is, you know, he was a brilliant sort of lead guy, and he leads this very, very well. I got this, I didn't even know it existed. In fact, I didn't even start listening to Humble Pie until I'd moved to California, and the only record of theirs that I was familiar with was Town and Country, which incidentally is one of my favourite records, but I didn't know the rest of their material, and I didn't know that Town and Country was actually quite different from, you know, their other records. This is, you know, this really sort of does capture the raw ones that they had. So yeah, I got this in California, and I've got a very happy memory of sitting at the kitchen counter, whatever I was doing, and my father-in-law was there, and we sat and we listened to it, and it was just on, and he's a man, I suppose, in his early 60s, and even he was enjoying it. He was saying, "Damn, this is a good record," you know. So I've always enjoyed it. Partly another thing as well is because it falls in line, and it's in a similar vein as my number 1 record, which I'm about to show now, my number 1 live album, and that is Who-Live At Leeds. I don't think there's ever been a better live album than this. So that, yeah, that Humble Pie album, as I understand, the idea of that was to try and capture what the Who had captured with this record, you know, this is just tremendous. If anyone knows this, quite happy to have this. I picked this up. I made a video about this record and how I acquired it. I'll put a link to it because it was quite an interesting record, quite an interesting video, I think, that I made. But so anyway, yeah, this has to be my number 1 live album. So okay, well, that's my countdown from 10 to 1 of live albums. Today, at least. You ask me next week, I might change them up a bit, but I just wanted to do that to sort of continue the thread that Liz had done just the other day. Okay, everybody, well, thanks very much for watching. I've got some more videos coming up soon, where I'll be showing a bit of jazz. Thank you very much. Check out my next video. Bye.